All right, Tony Schaefer joins us live. We're talking a little bit about you. You have been involved in the intelligence community for a very long time.
Yes.
I heard you in Fox and Friends First. When asked where the CIA was regarding this, you know, we should have gotten a heads up. What's the answer?
The answer is they've been told, my sources tell me, to sit on their hands. That is to say that, look, these are all our friends now.
Yeah.
We don't want to do anything provocative, and don't be stirring trouble up by talking to these guys in these groups because they may not like us. This is just like Colonel West, Representative West was just talking about, this policy of appeasement. These folks are not our friends. Every country, every group has their own interests, and frankly, what our guys should have been doing is what we're trained to do as intelligence officers: go out and look over the horizon. It was talked about earlier. Katie McFarland was talking about this. This was an organized attack. If it's organized, it was rehearsed. If it was rehearsed, there's things that happen that are detectable. We didn't get those things.
Are you saying, though, that American intelligence officers knew about this and on purpose sat on their hands?
No. I'm not saying that.
Okay.
What I'm saying is they've been told, be nice. To be an intelligence officer, to go out and do these things, you have to basically go down where they live. Some of these guys are not nice.
So because of that, they didn't learn about it.
They didn't learn about it. And think about it. We have invested billions of dollars in the Middle East. In Libya, we're there, and we've armed all these groups with understanding who we've armed, why we've armed them, and what's going on. And the guys weren't out over the wire, outside the wire, like we used to do, and try to find out what's going on. This was a complete failure of the intelligence community.
And at a time in which we're scaling down our military and telling everyone to go home
Right.
and get out early if you can, and putting voicemail on when people try to recruit and enlist, now we're asking Marines to go through all the 19 Middle East countries and fortify our embassies.
After the fact, two things real quick. First, why weren't we more prepared for the 9/11 anniversary? Every anniversary in the past, we've always had additional resources standing to. We didn't do that this time. More importantly, in this case, this ambassador, God bless him, was left out holding the bag by himself. They should have known. They should have had a wider range of security around him.
The Libyan government knew and said they warned us.
The Libyan government is not an effective government. It may be pro-U.S., but it ain't there.
Sure.
We destroyed the entire infrastructure, and it has not been time to rebuild it. Therefore, all these groups can be easily gotten to by the Al-Qaeda, by the syphilis, and that's what we're seeing here.
So do you believe it was all precipitated by this dumb film?
No, that thing's been out since June, Steve.
Okay, how big an influence was al-Zawahiri, who sent out the video just before 9/11 and said we've got to avenge the death of Mr. al-Libi, who was killed via drone?
Absolutely, that's a and this has all been orchestrated. Again, this is what we call information operations. This is orchestrated to cause a specific effect at a specific time and place. This was well planned. They did the information campaign via their sources, giving out the information, telling getting these lieutenants ready to do the protests. I do believe the embassy protest in Egypt was related, and then to do the attack on Cuba.
Okay, so if this film is just an excuse,
yes,
then how does a member of the State Department and the embassy in Cairo put out a tweet, or how does any message come out from our government that seems to use that film as the reason as to why all this is happening?
I can't answer that because I'm not a State Department guy. Frankly, I'm appalled by that. And let me be very clear. I'm not taking sides here, but Governor Romney was correct yesterday when he said this should not have come out, because the folks here, and I think...
The apology?
The apology. I mean, this is the deal. I mean, we should have drawn the line in the sand saying very clearly this is what we're going to accept and not accept. Representative West was correct when he talked about the fact that we are giving a policy of appeasement. I call it a policy of wishful thinking. We think everybody is our friends and we're trying to be nice. And frankly, the culture of this part of the world understands one thing very clearly: force. Not saying we shouldn't be good. I'm saying we have to be very clear on the fact there'll be consequences if they do things against us.
And we also know that people believe that once George Bush was gone, everything would be okay and we could just talk to our enemies.
This was a telling moment. This was kind of the Obama administration unrevealed. They really do think like this. And that's why you saw that tweet go out unguarded, as an unguarded moment. We are too often trying to apologize and not think about the consequences of the apology. I believe Yemen is a consequence of that apology. I believe not drawing the line and saying...
Tunisia too.
Tunisia too.
You know, we have been told by the mainstream media, Tony, that President Obama has been very effective in his foreign policy and that Arab Spring has just changed everything over there.
I sat next to Ambassador Ali Ujale 18 months ago.
Who's that?
Ambassador Ali Ujale was the defector from Gaddafi. He defected a year ago last spring. And I sat as close as I am to Steve right now, and he said, oh no, we're all ready for democracy. And I said, no, Mr. Ambassador, you're not. If we take away the control of Gaddafi, which is still great, Gaddafi was a dictator, you create a Yugoslavia situation like we have with Bosnia. Remember what happened in Bosnia in the 90s? We've done the same thing here by creating
That was
chaos.
a much more educated population.
And that's part of the problem here. We have a more radicalized population which is susceptible to being taken in, and I think that's what we're seeing here. So the whole idea that this has been a success, I don't see it. And others
in
have
light
said
of
that.
this, what do you do in Syria?
Well, first off, you have to understand, always begin with the end in mind. What are you trying to accomplish? I said this 18 months ago with Libya. We didn't understand, a lot of us understood that if you destroy the mechanism that governs the people of Syria, Libya, you take away any idea of a social construct. We destroy that country, and now we have chaos, and we're dealing with that. We don't want the same thing to happen in Syria.
Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer, thanks so much.
Right, thank you.